Week 2 is behind us. That means we are on to our panic meter heading into week 3 for Dynasty. So let's dive right in. We're going to start at the quarterback position. Originally, this whole segment was going to be about Bryce Young. I wrote everything on a Sunday night before finding out he actually got benched. So the quick recap for Bryce Young is 10 out of 10. It's the worst case scenario. That's easy. The new addition to the panic meter is going to be Will Levis. We're sitting at an 8 out of 10 with him. If you have watched him the first 2 weeks, he does not look like a second-year quarterback that is taking the leap forward. He just doesn't. He has played pretty poorly. Even take the turnovers out of it. He has played very poorly. Let's just be frank here, right? Under 200 yards passing in both starts. He is the reason the Titans are 0-2. From the back-breaking, inexplicably stupid interception he threw against the Bears that led to a pick 6, and the red zone fumble in week 2. The still shot, Addison, if you can find the still shot is one of the funniest fumbles I think I've ever seen. Will Levis just is not making good decisions. That's the simple fact here. He is completing 63% of his passes. This offense is very balanced because at least the run game's effective, but they are getting nothing through the air. And maybe that is because DeAndre Hopkins is not anywhere near healthy and really just looks like a shell of his former self, and they just have Calvin Ridley to rely on. I'm sure that plays a factor here. Heading into year 2, there was excitement about Will Levis, right? He was going to take the leap forward. He was going to make smarter decisions, better plays with his arm, etc. None of that is happening. If you have him right now, you did not hit the jackpot. That's just the truth here. Really, if you have Will Levis, you have what looks like a middling QB2 because of the rushing upside that probably isn't going to be a starter, for 5-10 years in the NFL. I don't think that's his trajectory. He's a guy, if I can sell him for a second, maybe 2 seconds, depending on the league and how active they really are, I think that's a fine out. Because I'm not sold in year 2 on Will Levis right now. Other end of the spectrum, let's go to running back here. I want to talk about Blake Corum because he's been a 0 for the first 2 weeks. Hasn't been involved whatsoever. My panic meter, 0 out of 10. I don't care because Blake Corum was not drafted as a 1B in this offense. At least that was my expectation coming into this season. He was supposed to be the clear-cut handcuff to Kyren Williams. I'm not even a huge Blake Corum fan, but after watching what McVay has done with running backs over his entirety of coaching the Rams, if you anticipated Blake Corum being the guy or an important part of this offense while Kyren Williams was healthy, I don't think you were paying attention. And that's, it's easy to say in hindsight, but that's just how Sean McVay runs his offense. When they have a guy, they stick with that guy until they inevitably get hurt like all running backs do. So Blake Corum is a 0 out of 10 because he's doing exactly what we anticipated. He is going to get his opportunities this year because Kyren Williams is going to get banged up. He is a physical runner. He takes on a ton of carries. And now that they don't have Cooper Kupp, they don't have Puka Nacua, Kyren Williams is going to touch the ball even more. And maybe this leads to, Blake Corum getting sprinkled in on offense here and there. And that could be a good thing. But ultimately, Blake Corum was drafted as a handcuff. He is a handcuff. You can't really be shocked by what's taken place right now. I think if you are, I think your expectations or your hope was a little bit misplaced. The other player I kind of want to, pause the panic on is Michael Pittman. We're at a 2 out of 10 with Michael Pittman. Look, the early returns have not been good. 6.1 points per game, that's terrible. A catch rate under 50%, that's terrible. But we know what Michael Pittman is. We know what he is capable of. We saw it last season. The ceiling with Pittman is top 12. I don't think he's going to get there with Anthony Richardson, but he's pulling in enough targets that things are going to swing back the other way for him. He's not going to be this unproductive, this inefficient. He has a 28% target share through the first 2 weeks. They just haven't connected. That's all this is. Now, we can't just, put him at a 0 out of 10 because if this extends longer, we need to be some level of worry, right? If Richardson and Pittman can't get on the same page at all this season, then yes, we're going to revisit this and panic's going to jump to 5, 6 out of 10. We'll believe in the talent, but if the situation's not where it needs to be, then we need to get concerned about Pittman. Right now is not that time. It's 2 weeks into the season. The bad news is next week they have Chicago. That secondary has been very, very good. Nico Collins kind of ate them up, but Tank Dell and Stephon Diggs were quiet. In general, that secondary has been solid. And then you have Pittsburgh, which looks like possibly the best defense in the NFL this year. So the next 2 weeks could be bad for Michael Pittman, admittedly. He's a guy I might even try to buy low on after week 3 or week 4 because I think alarm bells are going to be going off. The only saving grace could be if they are really getting pressured quickly, consistently, and often. Maybe they scale back some of the deep shots and go to Pittman and just try to get that quick game working. That's the positive that could come out of these 2 tough matchups. But overall, I think heading into week 5, people are continued to be disappointed in Michael Pittman, and you get a really nice opportunity to buy a very good wide receiver a lot cheaper than he should be. And to close it out, let's talk about Dalton Kincaid. I'm at a 4 out of 10. Pretty even keel, I think. I mean, we obviously need to take note of what is happening. That's why we're, again, at a 4 out of 10. Week 1 was terrible. Flat out abysmal. 2 targets, 1 catch, 11 yards. Okay. Week 2 was much better. Now, much better relative to terrible. Who cares? 4 targets, 4 catches, 33 yards. That's significantly more encouraging. And it's also encouraging when you kind of dig into week 2, right? He gets kneed in the face and misses a chunk of the game. He played less than 50% of snaps. So that's notable. The big problem for Dalton Kincaid right now is the pass volume in Buffalo. It has been a problem for fantasy because this team doesn't have the weapons to, I think, throw the ball 30 plus times, 35 plus times a game. At least they don't want to do that. They want to win with defense and they want to run the ball. Think about what has happened the first 2 games for Buffalo. Well, fewer than 25 pass attempts each of the first 2 games. Going back to 2020, those 4 seasons, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, Josh Allen had 2 such games where he threw the ball less than 25 times. They've done it twice in 2024 already. This is a shift in identity for Buffalo. Now, they're not always going to be able to follow this script. They will have games that get out of control, that are high scoring, fast paced, and Josh Allen will turn into Josh Allen. That's ultimately going to be a good thing for Dalton Kincaid. But right now, we need to be a little bit concerned because the MO for Buffalo is not to air it out. Dalton Kincaid is not going to be an 8 to 9 target guy consistently like we see Trey McBride in Arizona. The offenses are vastly different. The situations are very different. Dalton Kincaid has a high ceiling. I don't know if we get it this year. I think maybe 2025 they add another high-end wide receiver and start to round out the receiving group again to recover from losing Stephon Diggs. But this season, it may end up being a dud for what we expected to be a breakout season for Dalton Kincaid.